So funny story, I actually think we've now surpassed the figures that I used in the intro video. I actually had to call in a favor for my brother because when I made that intro video that you're about to see in just a second here, I didn't even have the bass Kong, which it was brand new. My brother had it. I didn't have it yet. So I had him record a small little video for that intro. And we got a lot more figures to go until we're completely caught up. So it might be time to update this intro.
In this series, we're going to be taking a look at every single Hiya Exquisite basic figure in the Godzilla line. Every repaint, reissue, 2.0, whatever they put out, we're going to be taking a look at them all in release order. Let's get started.
Welcome back, everybody, to another video review. Today, we are, of course, taking a look at the Hiya Toys Exquisite Basic Godzilla X Kong The New Empire Kong Beast Glove version. This was very much a case of you got that first Kong in hand and then you got a shipping notification for the next Kong already. It was crazy. Now, I do think that was coincidental. As we've talked about for the last couple videos, their entire line got significantly delayed. And so I think they just kind of got both these figures produced at roughly the same time and were able to get them shipped out at roughly the same time. I don't think that was their original plan, is what I'm getting at. There's not a lot more I have to say about this figure that I haven't already said about the previous Kong. For this Kong is 90% the exact same thing that you would have gotten had you got the base Kong. This one obviously with the Beast Glove arm, and all the hands that come with this arm are going to also have, of course, the Beast Glove attachment on them. But other than that, it's the same head sculpts, it's the same hand sculpts, and you do lose the axe in this release. So is this figure worth picking up if you already own the original? Is it worth picking up in general? Let's get right into it. Now, in terms of sculpt and paint, I'm just gonna kind of gloss over this section a little bit, as everything save for this arm is exactly the same as the original Kong. The sculpt is just as beautiful and top-notch as I was going on about in the last video. The fur is just as excellent. The sculpt is just as excellent. This is still the definitive MonsterVerse Kong figure, just now with a fancy Iron Man gauntlet on him. Now, in terms of the paint applications, to my eyes, this is identical. Or at the very least, they were given the exact same master paint scheme. I don't think this is supposed to have a different paint scheme is what I'm getting at. I've seen some people say that this looks a little brighter or there's a little extra coloration going on. I don't see that personally. Maybe there's some variance in units sent out. That could just be some variables in the factory going on. You're going to be seeing some comparison photos on your screen right about now, comparing this Kong and the previous Kong. I don't see any extra dry brushing. There's no battle damage going on here. There's nothing like that. If there were any differences, it's that the dry brushing of those greenish browns that I talked about in the last video might be just applied a little differently here. But again, I don't think this is intended to be a different looking Kong. Any differences might just be coincidental. Let's use the majority of this video to talk about the big glaring gauntlet in the room, which would be the Beast Glove. Now, this is actually going to be Hiya's first attempt at doing mechanical detailing. So let's take a closer look now at the sculpt and paintwork specifically on the gauntlet, and maybe this just might give us some clues at what to expect from machine-based characters from Hiya Toys in the future. Now, the sculpt of the Beast Gauntlet does look quite nice. There's a ton of very fine machine detailing, a lot of rivets, little metal plating, grooves, and general greebling. Where I would say that there is some area to improve would be the transition from the machinery parts to Kong's flesh. You can see here on the bicep that there are these little clamps that are meant to clamp down on the fur, but you can definitely tell they just kind of indented the sculpt of the clamp here into the fur and didn't really provide any organic collision between the fur and the clamp here. What I mean is you don't really see too much fur reacting to the clamp. It's just kind of clamped onto the sculpt, if that makes much sense. You definitely get a better sense of what I'm getting at here on the fists, where the gauntlet provides an exoskeleton wrapped around all the fingers. The sculpt kind of blends those two together into one kind of ugly mesh of gray plastic there. It would have been nice if there was a little more clarity on where the exoskeleton attached to the fist and where the fist was itself. Now, the other alternate hand pieces do a much better job at showing this visual variance, but this would be one area that I think they could improve on for future mechanical parts. Now, another aspect of the sculpt would just be how large and obtrusive the gauntlet is. It's not really their fault, it's kind of just part of the design, but this gauntlet is massive. It adds a lot of mass to the width of the arms here. So much so that posing the arm down becomes a little more of a challenge compared to the other arm. Let's talk about paint now, as this is one of the stronger suits of this gauntlet. This gauntlet isn't meant to look shiny and brand new like, say, a Mechagodzilla. It is meant to look a little scrappy, a little aged, and to that effect, I think they nailed it. The yellow here looks very construction-like. They painted on a lot of fine mechanical detailing, all these little pistons, got some lettering there, and it has some very nice weathering. On top of this construction yellow, you have a lot of this aged orange that's just dry brushed all over the gauntlet, makes it look very dirty and used. The paintwork on the gauntlet is very nice. All right, let's briefly talk about the articulation now. Now, as I've already said, this is basically the exact same figure as the last Kong, but I'll very quickly demonstrate the articulation in case you are just tuning in for this video. So the head is going to be on 2 ball joints. There's one up here above the neck and one down here at the neck. Allows the head to look up that far, can look down about that far before the beard kind of collides in with the sculpt, can look side to side. The arms are able to go out about that far. They can rotate freely of the shoulder piece, and they can also rotate with the shoulder piece. This one's a little stiff, so you'll have to excuse that. It can go all the way around. There's no bicep swivel, but you can kind of cheat it here at the shoulder. The elbows are going to be on double hinges. You can get this arm, at least, crunched up very nice, and you can rotate it above and below the elbow. At the wrist, there's a ball joint here, and it's also connected to a ball joint here, so the wrist can flex out that way, and it can flex about that far, and it can rotate all the way around. The body's going to have 2 ball joints, one right here and one right here. It's going to give some very good movement down by the waist, as well as some extra movement here by the chest. You're not going to get him crunched too far, but you can get his back arched very nice, and you can get him tilted side to side a pretty good amount because of that extra chest articulation. And the legs, just like the base Kong, are going to be ball joints here at the thighs. You can splay them out about that far. You can bring them in only about that far. They can rotate all the way around, but his massive ass cheeks kind of prevent or collide with the sculpt. You are going to get a cut here at the thigh. Can rotate all the way around. The knees can hinge about that far, and the feet are on very limited ball joints. All right, with all that out of the way, let's now take a look at some of the unique engineering for this gauntlet. So the arm does move at the shoulder the exact same as this one. You can't get it down quite as far due to how thick the gauntlet is, but as you can see, if you just rotate the arm in a little bit, you can basically cheat it anyway. But straight out like that, yeah, it ain't going to happen. Does still have the double hinged elbow, but because of these side clamps, you're not going to get the same range. Now, how does the elbow work with the side clamps? Well, these are actually hinges, and it does have some functional mechanical parts to it, which is very nice. So as I hinge this elbow, this gear here is going to rotate, and it's going to twist this little top part, just like so. That is an incredible piece of detailing on Hiya's end, and it really kind of helps elevate this whole gauntlet system just a little bit. It's very subtle. It's nothing crazy, but it is very nice to see regardless. Now, in terms of the elbow movement, you are only going to get them bent about that far compared to this arm, which again, you can bend all the way. Again, that's just due to how large and intrusive this gauntlet is. Now the hands are going to have the same movement. They're still going to have a ball joint here, a ball joint here, and you're not going to be that restricted with the hands, as you still need to pop them off and swap hands. Now, in addition to all that, the gauntlet actually has a little extra functionality. I don't remember this being a thing in the movie, but regardless, this is very cool to see anyway. So this front piece here, you can pop it forward. It's on just a sliding little plate there. And once you do that, that allows you to
flip these vents open. That's pretty damn cool. That is going to reveal some extra sculpt and detailing underneath all those plates. Look at all that very small mechanical detailing. It's a really nice detail that Hiya didn't have to do. That is really cool to see anyway. And this little front piece, you can just push that back in afterwards, no problem. All right, talking briefly now about accessories. So as I mentioned earlier, this is essentially going to have the exact same accessory kit as the base Kong, minus the axe, and of course with half of these hands all having the gauntlet sculpt on them. This is where I would agree the value is kind of lost a little bit. Now the lack of an axe makes sense, because once he gets the gauntlet, he doesn't use the axe. But I would agree that Hiya should have made it up in the accessories. The head sculpts, for example, are still just as beautiful as the last Kong, but they are the exact same heads. I think this was a missed opportunity to include some alternate expressions for Kong, especially since we now have 2 copies of the metal tooth roaring head. Now the hands I think are still all excellent. I don't have any issues at all with this selection of hands. Something you should know is that the set of splaying hands still does have the fresh cut wounds on the palm. And I would say they look a little nicer here than the base Kong, although my issues are still that they just kind of look a little flat, the wounds themselves, that is, not the hands. Also, this is a good chance to take a look at how the gauntlet looks with the fingers when you can actually see all the fingers. There is some extra detailing around the fingernails. You got some extra clamps, and they do wrap around like rings on the fingers. It's a nice touch, but again, I think it would have been nice to see a little more variety there. It does look very nice, but I think some of that detailing is lost when the gauntlet just kind of blends in with the paint job on the hand. I think what would have helped a lot would be making all the metal pieces on the gauntlet chrome, especially around the hands. Otherwise, it just kind of has the same paint application as the hands, which makes some of this detailing lost. While we're talking about the hands, another thing you should know is that you do get a gripping hand, which normally you would be able to slide in the axe, but I just don't think it's possible with the gauntlet on here. Now, I've tried heating this hand up, and it's just not as flexible as, say, the other gripping hand that comes with this Kong. This one can hold the axe no problem. But I don't think you're getting the axe in the gauntlet hand at all. Not unless you really want to risk breaking or warping the plastic on this hand. I would strongly advise against trying to force anything in this hand, at least the axe. Now it is time for some size comparisons. So this figure is also going to stand at approximately 6.5 inches tall, give or take, just like the last Kong. Taking a look now at some figure comparisons, here is how the Beast Glove Kong is going to look next to Hiya Toys' Godzilla Evolved. And let me tell you, the wait was worth it because these two look so good together. Here's how Beast Glove Kong looks next to the base Axe Kong. And I gotta say, this is a pretty neat way to army build some Kongs. Here is how the Beast Glove Kong is going to look next to Hiya Toys' Shimo. Again, regardless of if Shimo should be a little bigger, I'm very happy with the scaling here. I think they look great together regardless. And here's the Beast Glove Kong next to the SH Monster Arts Scar King. Bringing things back to a little more Kong focused, here's how this figure looks next to a Hiya Toys Skull Crawler, the Hiya Toys Godzilla 2014, a standard Hiya Toys Godzilla, Super 7 Super Kaiju, SH Monster Arts, SH Monster Arts, Bandai action figure, Titanic Creations, and a banana for scale. Closing thoughts. Alright, so I still think this is one of the best Kong action figures on the market. Everything I had to say about the last Kong still applies to this Kong. However, this time around, I feel that Hiya Toys has a problem of addressing who this figure is made for. If you already own the base Kong, all you're really getting from this is the Beast Glove. There's nothing else in the package for you. It's the exact same heads, the exact same hands. You would really only be buying this to complete your collection. On the flip side, if you bought this figure, well, why do you need the base Kong? Because again, exact same heads, exact same hands, except that one has an axe. Now, I don't think that Hiya Toys was trying to get you to buy both just for an axe.
And I think they've established that because the upcoming Mothra and Zuko pack does come with an axe. And I think that that is the intended way for you to get the additional accessories for Kong, is to complete the GXK lineup that way. Instead, I think what they're trying to offer you here, what I think Hiya was trying to do was offer an option A or an option B. Do you like Kong with the glove or without the glove? I think that's what the idea was. But I think that was a mistake. I think they should have made this a unique, full, standalone figure. I think it was a missed opportunity to not include unique facial expressions for this figure, or at the very least, a replacement for the axe. If this figure came with a heave ship or a couple small heave ships, kind of like what Tamashi did with the event exclusive Kong, that would have been enough on its own. But all they did here was took away the axe and gave you the glove, which is just part of the sculpt. So, again, I'm not trying to say this is a bad figure. This is a really good figure. It really just comes down to, do you like the glove or do you not like the glove? If you do, you should just get this one. If you don't, you should go get the base Kong. It's really as simple as that, as you're gonna love this figure either way. Oh, and everything I mentioned in the last Kong video too still applies here. My issues with this figure is that it should have come with a stand. It still has the stability issues. And they still need to make better ankles just on all their figures across the board. I think the only figure in this video series we've taken a look at so far that has really good ankles is the Godzilla 1991, the Skullcrawlers, and I think Ghidorah 91. All the MonsterVerse Godzillas, all the Kongs, they have pretty terrible ankles in my opinion. It's a very simple fix too. Anyway, like I said, this is probably a very quick look at the Beast Glove Kong. It's as good as the first one. It's just a different flavor of it. So let me know which one you prefer. I kind of lean towards the Beast Glove Kong personally. Just it adds a little more variety visually on my shelf. But I could definitely understand if you prefer the base Kong with the axe. They both look amazing. Let me know which one you prefer, guys. Let me know what you think of this figure in general. Thank you all for sticking around. Look forward to the next video, guys. Until next time, see ya.